Rosenberg and I was just talking about how complicated it is for us to sometimes tell you guys the stupidity that's going on, because it's so ridiculous and also so complicated to articulate how conservatives are using anti-Semitism to basically take away free speech.
Yeah.
I get my brain gets wrapped in I keep wanting to make a post about it, and I'm like, I can't thoroughly communicate how crazy it is. But I will say it's going to become a little more clear now, because there's this bill that's coming up.
Here, let's see if this audio works, because today they vote on the bill in the House.
Suppose that's what I hear.
And Lawler, the representative from New York, is leading the bill, by the way.
Okay.
Oh.
Here, listen.
IGO Anti-Boycott Act, and it is being voted on May 5th. And it would impose a $1 million fine and potential 20-year prison sentence for Americans who boycott the country of Israel. The bill is being sponsored by Representative Lawler of New York, and it is essentially trying to shield Israel from accountability and the BDS movement, which has been massively successful in punishing companies who are supporting the genocide going on in Gaza.
And there's 24, and she went on to say there's 24 bipartisan representatives supporting this bill, because obviously there's people who are, Democrat and Republican, who are, and once again, we talked about this, I think it was Thursday last week. It's one thing to be, supportive of Judaism, Jews, and Israelis in Israel. It's another thing to stand by and act like the government of Israel is beyond reproach and can't be critiqued, can't be held accountable for their actions. Because once again, not everyone in Israel supports the actions of the Israeli government.
No. The idea that any place is beyond reproach and you're not allowed to talk. I don't even know how to explain this. You can't. Why would people not be allowed to protest a country? Why? In America, we're going to change America's rules. So here's what's going to happen. I already saw Marjorie Taylor Greene, the most loyal Trump servant that exists in Congress, has come out and said she's on the verge of breaking with Trump over this issue. This will be the beginning, Ebro, of where you start to hear how it can easily turn back into anti-Semitism. Because they're going, wait, why are we... And by the way, I hate to say this, I understand what she's saying. Why?
For the first time.
She's saying, why would Americans be required to be loyal to another country? And when people realize how insane that is, what are they going to do? They're going to go, wait a second, why is there a special rule for Israel?
And then they're going to, once again, going back to what we talked about on Thursday, they're going to associate Israel with Jews. Blanket. Not all Jews support Israel. Not all Jews are in Israel.
And it's very clear. And I'll tell you one thing that's very clear. All of these things being done, these special rules for Israel, I'll tell you what it doesn't have to do with: religion and Judaism. There are other financial things at play here that are the real core issues that we don't even know about. Because why on earth would there be this level of protection of Israel simply because of religion?
Guys, up to 20 years in prison, $1 million in fines is insanity. That's more than, I don't know, people who sexually assault others, crimes against children. Think about that. 20 years.
20 years in jail if you boycott Israel? What the heck? What is going on?
Well, I'll tell you what's going on.
And it's the right wing doing it. It's the people who. And by the way, this bill, nothing in this bill talks about the people on the right. The Jews will not replace us. Nothing. There's nothing about that sort of real anti-Semitism. It's only about college kids protesting against Israel. But remember, The Trump administration's already going after higher education, supposedly because they're fighting against anti-Semitism, even though the loudest voices at all of these higher education places are Jews. You can't make it make sense. There's no way to make this make sense. But it does scare the hell out of me. It's all very
Which
scary.
part scares you?
Taking away Americans' rights to say things.
Free speech.
Taking away people's free speech at the same time that we're deporting people now for saying things or being different.
Well, I think I think for me, that's how crazed the whole Israel AIPAC movement is. It's because Lawler, I don't know his spirituality or any of that. But the guy pushing this bill forward, you put pen to paper for this bill, which clearly was to please your constituency. And so these things are happening often because, as you pointed out, Rosenberg, there's a elitist class that's pushing this that has financial interests in Israel and between the relationship of Israel and America. So someone's got some financial interest in this. Because as the audio I just played articulated, this is tied to the that BDS movement, the divestment movement of penalizing companies that choose to associate themselves with things that are doing harm to other human beings.
Right, which, by the way, is still happening constantly. So that nothing has changed in that regard. In fact, my dad just told me they called up 20,000 more Israeli reserves.
To go into Gaza, you mean?
To go into Gaza. And just so you know, everyone in Israel has to serve. So when they say calling up the reserves, these are mad regular people who are now just living their lives, who are going to be, I have to go to war in Gaza right now to kill people.
Whether I agree or not.
Whether I agree or not. And by the way, I mean, it's nowhere near the amount of death happening to the civilians. But Israeli soldiers are regularly dying right now also for no reason.
That's right.
So this is just continuing, and now in the U.S. they're going to try to come up with a bill that you're not even allowed to talk about it. So it's going to be really interesting, guys, because some of the loudest voices in America right now that are still being actively against what's happening in Gaza are Jewish voices.
Well, you know what you can do, and likely won't get in trouble, is you can call a 5-year-old black kid at the park the N-word multiple times on camera and raise $500,000 on a Christian fundraising site.
That's
right. You can do that.
Yeah,
because that's happening right now. You've seen that story.
Oh, I saw it over the weekend. I assume everybody has seen it, but that this woman in Minnesota decided to, she claimed that a child who is, I believe, on the autism spectrum was getting into her child's stuff, supposedly. So she decided to call this child the N-word multiple times. And when she was called out for it on camera, said the N-word again. And now the citizens of this town are calling for her to be prosecuted. And as a result, a crowdsourcing service was put together. And the racists have come together to raise over $500,000 to protect a woman who called a child with autism the N-word.
By the way, when we say child, we literally mean a 5-year-old.
Yeah, we're not calling a 17-year-old a child.
Or even a 13-year-old.
We're talking about a child.
A damn near a baby.
Damn near a baby. Like
it's
one
a
of
baby.
Those, you see a 5-year-old, you go, is that kid 2 or 4? I don't know. It's a very small child. And the people came out and wanted to support this woman's right to call a child the N-word.
Well, and
the fundraising platform, just so you know, because everybody's like, why doesn't, why don't they just cancel it? It's Give, Send, Go. And she titles her fundraising campaign, Help Me Protect My Family. The woman's name is Shiloh Hendricks.
Oh, they have her name now? I didn't know her name was out there. Okay.
Shiloh Hendricks, that's her name.
Well,
and then not only that, they
that's
found the guy who actually recorded her and was like, I can't believe you're doing this to a child. Like, they already doxed him, put his address out. He's being harassed. He's being, they're trying to come for him too.
Well, so I just wanted to bring that up because when we're talking about free speech, when it comes to disrespecting certain groups in this country, that's all clean. We don't have enough bills for that, right? Enough execution. We don't have enough prosecution for that.
You would think, by the way, that it would not be remotely like. Hey, listen, I'm very pro free speech. I would be all in favor of a bill making it literally illegal for white people to call black people in America the N-word. That would actually be something on the table we could have a conversation about. That's not even in the conversation.
Well, you mean
we're talking about protesting a foreign government.
Yeah.
You can't do that. Well, or they want that to be illegal.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a House resolution at this point. They are voting on it today, but pay attention to it. It's and you can do your own research on it. HR 867. As we watch this country we live in become something very unfamiliar to us all.
And you can call your congressperson and tell them to vote no on it, by the way.
That's a great idea.
Which would potentially be effective. But I love that these people who are so quick to tell you that racism doesn't exist anymore are always the most racist. I never understand that. I'm like,
because they don't even understand what racism is. They don't understand that it's structural. They just last week we saw them, Stephen Miller, the Jewish Nazi that works and has been like the architect for the whole Trump racism campaign for the last 2 terms. Talking about the Department of Education closing down and that we won't be able to teach critical race theory. They're just lying to people. Critical race theory is not taught anywhere. CRT, critical race theory, it's not taught in any public institution anywhere. It's not taught at an elementary school, high school level. Nowhere.
And by the way, even the wording critical race theory, the whole way it got framed, it was just called teaching people the truth. We won't even get into that. That racism's bad and caused a lot of problems.
Well, and that it's structural. That's really what it's about, and that it's woven into the policies and the laws of a nation. That's really all because origin.
That's so not edgy. That's so not edgy. It's just truthful.
People want to act like the origin story here isn't rooted in basically oppressing people because of their race, which is a made-up construct made up by white people. Y'all made this stuff. That's my whole frustration all the time. Y'all uncles and grandparents and great-great-greats made this up.
And you deny it.
And then now you acting like it's on us to fix it.
No, and it doesn't even exist. And then even when racism's still actively happening, you say it doesn't exist and it isn't anywhere.